Hello, Ron back here with another video today. Today we're going to talk about the Mavic line of drones, the DJI Mavic line of drones. We have the first up. We have the Mavic Air 2, recently released in this spring. 4K drone, very capable, many features built in, great battery life, great range. One of the better all-around drones you can get out there for the price, starting at only $7.99. And at the end of last year, I think around beginning in November, we released the Mavic Mini. It's even a better price drone. It only, I think it starts at $3.99. It doesn't have 4K. It only has 2.7K at 30 frames per second. It doesn't have the range of this one because the Mavic Air 2 has OcuSync, where this one is relying on Wi-Fi only. So it doesn't have the range, but it does have good battery life. Not as good as this one. This one I think has a flying time in the in the 30s, like in the mid 30s, and this one's a little bit less, maybe the upper 20s. I forget the specs, but you're going to get better battery life out of this. Bigger drone, bigger battery. It can only be expected. But today what we're here to do is we're going to do like a kind of a test of how the cameras perform in bright light. I'm here in the morning, and then later on we're going to do low light right before sunset. So we're going to kind of test it at the extremes. When the sun's very high in the sky in the middle of the day, like say high noon, as I used to say, there's not as much difference in the cameras because the sun's very high, kind of everything's bright. It's not a good time of day to shoot, but it affects cameras less than it does at the extremes of light when the sun is lower and also stronger, more directional, and brighter. So that's what we're going to focus on here today. And these tests are going to be done with kind of auto settings, as auto as we can get, no filters of any type, and we're going to shoot each one on its best camera setting, or actually we're going to go 30 frames per second. We'll go the Mavic Air 2 4K 30 and the Mavic Mini at 2.7K 30. So at least the frame rates will be consistent. But I don't believe in testing the camera at I don't believe in doing this thing where I turn the Air 2 down to 2.7 or whatever. We want to kind of test best against best or whatever, or I shouldn't say best. The maximum resolution may not always be the best case in every scenario. So let's just say the top setting, not necessarily the best setting, but the top setting you can put on the machine. So with no further ado, we're down here at the beach early morning, and we're going to take these things up and see what they could do. I think I'll start with the Mini first. It doesn't really matter. The light will change slightly between flights, but not enough to make a big difference. So so we'll start with the Mini. Okay, be right back, folks. Okay, folks, we got everything booted up here. Drone is booted up. We got 12 satellites. We have 98% battery life on the drone. We got a real strong signal here, so we're going to take it off here. Okay, we're going to watch the drone hover for a few minutes here, or a few seconds, before we go up and out of here, Mickey Morandini. Okay, she seems to be hovering very well. There's hardly any wind this morning, so let's take her camera angle there. Okay, here we go. Hit the record button. Okay, you saw that aircraft signal loss there, and we already had aircraft interference, and we already had a previous pop-up here. At least I'm not getting that wind pop-up alert like you do if you fly this thing in just the littlest amount of wind. So at first we flew towards the sun. You saw the bright overexposure. Now we come back with the sun on our back, and of course the screen looks much better. Another aircraft signal interference, and I'm up pretty high. I'm 150 feet. I'm standing on the other side of the dunes in the shade, so I mean I'm not like dead on with it, but I don't see a whole lot of reason we're getting interference here. So now we get a strong wind warning here. You can see it on the screen. Lower altitude immediately, so I'm coming down. Okay, there it went. It liked me coming down about 20-25 feet, so there it went away. Okay, now I've got now I just lost FPV. I got no image transmission. Okay, wants me to confirm the return home.
Go home.
I was only 1,100 feet out. Don't know what happened there. I'm on the beach, not too much interference, but we're coming home. We got our FPV back, but we'll let it come home. We lost it again. So we're really having some troubles here. So we got a tall building in the way there, you see, so we're gonna turn a direction here. We're kind of gonna go up high. We're gonna cancel that return to home since we have control back. It's trying to send us into that building there, so I don't know what I had return at home, how you set it, but not high enough to get over that building there. So we're gonna take control. In fact, well, we would have been okay. We're already back, so. So we'll just bring it down, bring it back to us manually. Yeah, we're almost, it says 476 feet out, but we're almost back. Okay, we're down to a respectable height. So we're going to bring it in here and get the Air 2 going here. Yeah, we're almost back. I can hear it. There it is. We'll get a good picture of Lucy Bobber here. Okay, we're going to stop the video recording here and change over the picture. So we're going to go to photo. All right, folks, that was a successful flight of the Mavic Mini. We had a couple signal loss issues, but I should have been probably staying up on top of that dune there to give it better line of sight and all that. I don't want to make it look bad in this video because it does have a good Wi-Fi signal, better than most. So yeah, so it has a better Wi-Fi signal than most Wi-Fi drones. So don't want to make it look bad here, but the main point was taking the video in bright morning sunlight or whatever. And now we're going to compare it to the Mavic Air 2. We're going to get the Mavic to air up in the air, and you know, we're going to fly the same routes we did with the little Mini and see how they compare. So you know, stay tuned. Okay, folks, we're almost ready to go here. I got the Mavic Air 2, you know, fired up, full battery, 99%. Controllers, you know, 4 bars on it, and one of the odd things, or I shouldn't say odd things, maybe you could even say a con about the Mavic Air 2, it seems to take a long time to acquire satellites. So we're just waiting on the, you know, takeoff permitted thing, and I just got the takeoff permitted, so we have 12 satellites, but it's kind of weird. It says takeoff not permitted, you have 0 satellites, and usually you go from no satellites to 12 satellites in just like a flick of an eye or whatever, you know, like it doesn't slowly build up. So and seems to go slower than, you know, most of your other drones in acquiring enough satellites to take off. But maybe that's something that could be corrected in a upcoming firmware update. Maybe the same firmware update that allows the Mavic Air 2 to fly with a smart controller. Well, we're dreaming now. But anyhow, with no further ado, let's get this bird in the air here, as my friend Marcus Crawford over at the Idaho Quadcopter channel would say, and I forgot his hat here. But anyhow, let's go. Okay, looks like she's got a good steady hover there. Again, we got very little wind out here this morning, so let's kind of go up and out of there, Mickey Morandini. Alright, folks, we got a screen recording going here, so let's go over here to video. And as I said, we're going to put it on 4K 30, which it seems to be on now. So I said we would go Dr. Auto the whole time, but so it's the auto button. Oops, that's manual button. Oh, there's the auto button. The auto button automatically put it on +3, so which I don't think is going to be best here, because if we get out in the sun, probably we're going to need one of -3 here, but we're going to put it on that for right now. So let's go. Let's start this recording here. I noticed the funny thing is on the Mavic Mini controller, you have a separate photo button and video button, where on the Mavic Air 2, they're a combination button on the right hand upper side of the controller. So just a little fun fact for you there. So let's go up a little bit, get this up to about almost our 100. Are we recording? There, we're finally recording. So let's go out here, get out over the water, kind of. Okay, so now we're going to turn back. You know, one thing I got to change here in the settings, you'll see here, I have this on the Cinelike, and we want to, for this testing, we're going to go normal here. But of course I have to stop the video to change that. Okay, so now we're on normal, and I think everything else is as much as I can get it, like the little Mini. Okay, so we're recording again. Yeah, so we need on the Mini. I actually did put it to the exposure to a. I put the exposure down to I think I had it at 0. Anyhow, okay, here we go. Again, we got no filters, no nothing here. So let's go out for a little run here. Let's gain a little bit more height, and let's go down the beach here towards the sun here. Now the sun, of course, is, you know, a little bit brighter than when we flew the Mini. You know, even though it's only been 5 or 10 minutes, that light changes that quickly. So we'll go down here to where we hit around 1,000. Of course, we're moving much faster with the Air 2 here. I don't see my 24 miles per hour. So we're out already further than we were with a little Mini. So we're going to turn around. Of course, we've had no hiccups, no signals, nothing so far. So let's turn back around here. I don't try to whip you too fast with a yaw here like I did on the Mini. Okay, so now we're coming back this way here. So now we can. Now that's probably where I change to EV. So maybe we'll make it just a tad darker here. Sorry, went the wrong way. Okay, it's a tad darker here, so we don't want too much overexposure. So we're going to aim a little. We're going to come in here a little bit more over the beach here, so you can see some more of the landscape and not just the water. Okay, so that's good. So we're gonna come back now. Yeah, we're getting no wind warnings, no signal loss. I mean, this really is. We're mostly doing a camera test here, but this really is a better drone in every way. My friend Billy Kyle said on some video he did, or maybe even one of the live shows, that the Mavic Air 2 costs twice as much as the Mini does, but it's like 3 times the drone though. So he's trying to make the point that it's really worth paying the extra money for the little Air 2. You just get more bang for your buck, as they used to say in the old days. So here we got a nice, kind of quiet morning on the beach here. Not a whole lot of people out and about. Just kind of a relaxing morning, which is a good thing. And we've gone our 1,000 here, so you'll be able to get a good. I'll be able to line this up good against the little Mavic Mini. So let's kind of yaw. Let's slowly yaw. We'll do a real nice, smooth, slow yaw backwards. And we got some of the high rises down here at the south end of Margate City. All right, so we're going to fly back towards this big tower, and we're kind of tucked in here a little bit, but we're going to come back and we're going to change our EV setting again. Lock it in there. Okay, so we're coming back. This thing's such a pleasure to fly. The little Mini fly is good too, but this really is a real joy to fly. Okay, as you see all those overexposure warnings there. Okay, we didn't come far enough down here, so let's come a little bit further down. Let's look at my histograms with this, overexposure. And look at the histogram pop back again now that we got away from that overexposure. Actually, I have that dialed in a lot better. But again, I'm trying to keep things, pretty fair here for the comparison on auto. Figuring that most people don't really mess around with their EV the whole flight like I would. All right, we're down here at the Bayside at Sunset here in Margate City near the bridge, and we have the DJI Mavic Mini in the air, and we have it the settings at 4K 30 and white balance auto, and we're just kind of flying around a little bit, trying to get the video. We had a little bit cloudy skies here with the sun popping out on the horizon, and the Mini's doing a pretty good job here. Things look like they're properly exposed, and the sun, we're not getting any lens flares or anything crazy like that, or terrible overexposure. So pretty happy with it. And right here we're going to throw in a little kind of time lapse. It doesn't have time lapse, but I did it on a video editor. So okay, now we're jumping over to the Mavic Air 2. Now we have this on, actually we're using the HDR feature because, just in a few minutes the sun dropped, below the horizon and really became dark. So I threw the HDR feature on, which the Mini doesn't have, but the Air 2 does. And it's doing a remarkably good job with, nothing but the afterglow of the sun set. And I think when you throw in HDR, everything's in auto, so I didn't set anything else but putting the HDR button on. So again, it did I'm going to call a fantastic job in low light here of capturing those beautiful clouds and the glow and the graph from the lights. I mean, I didn't realize this had this kind of capability here, so I am really impressed with the Mavic Air 2 with the HDR feature, how this is performing at at we're going to call post sunset here, where the sun has actually dropped below the horizon. But now in a second here, I'm going to actually turn the camera the other direction, like away from the sun, and we're going to see how it performs then in the low light situation. So here, the light would be to the kind of the left of the picture, and what you're seeing is Margate City, Ventnor City. In the distance, you're seeing the lights from Atlantic City. And even though you can see a bunch of digital noise here, if you look at the sky, I still think it's doing remarkably well, considering the size of the sensor and everything like that. So yeah, to me, this is a real win-win. And you can fix some of that digital noise in post, most likely, but I want to keep everything in unedited here for this comparison. So I hope you enjoyed this comparison between the Mini and the Air 2 in basically sunrise, early morning, and sunset. So we'll see at the end for some final conclusions and thoughts. All right, folks. So that was it on the testing between the DJI Mavic Air 2 and the DJI Mavic Mini. And some of the conclusions you could see in the beginning part when I first took the Mini off and aimed it at the rising sun. It had a lot of issues with the being overexposed on the right hand side of the screen, where the sun was coming up and reflecting off the water. And at that point it probably really needed an ND filter on it, probably a strong ND filter, probably a 16 at the minimum, maybe even up to a 32 or a 64 to take some of that glare off. And we did auto settings, so we did not fool around with setting the 30 the 30 frames per second and the shutter at 60. I'm sure that shutter speed was nowhere close to 60. The way we flew it without any ND filter, or without even playing with the in auto. You can play with the exposures a little bit, and I probably should have moved the exposure around, and even in the auto settings. But again, I did not want to do a lot of strong maneuvering in the settings. So some people fly complete auto, so I did not want to take that, go too deep into changing all the settings around. And conversely, when we flew the Mavic Air 2 in the same direction on auto settings, it did a much better job. I mean, it wasn't even close. It was, it was like night and day difference between how well it handled the bright exposure of the rising sun and reflecting off the ocean water. So, I mean, we knew the Mavic Air 2 would do better, and it did do better, but it probably did even better than the gap. The gap was probably even wider than even I expected it to be. So, bear that in mind if you're the type of person that wants to fly in the early morning when the sun's still rising but low in the sky. Now, when we did turn the Mini around the other direction with the sun at its back, of course, the video looked great. I mean, it did perfectly fine on auto with no ND filters. I thought the video looked great, even if I was looking at it on a 27-inch 5K monitor, and it still looked really good in my opinion. So, like a lot of drones, like a lot of affordable drones, I say, like the Hubsan Xeno line, the Xeno 1, the Xeno 2, the FIMI, they do really well when the sun's at the back. But it's when you turn them towards the sun that they have the issues. Now, I will give the Mini credit. Those other drones have a lot of lens flare when they're flying at the sun. Where the Mini, I mean, if you look real hard, you can see a little lens flare here and there, but it was very moderate compared to the other drones, especially the Xeno 2, which is known for the lens flare. But the lens flare is there on the FIMI, but the Xeno 2 is the worst. But the Mini by far was better than those two. With both, with handling the bright exposure and not having the lens flare issue. So, but again, we of course the Air 2 when it flew, when the sun was at its back, it was perfect too. The video looked great, no issues at all. Now the Mini, it did have, you probably saw, it had a couple of lost signal things, but that was probably my fault because I was standing on the other side of the dune, and maybe I didn't always have the greatest line of sight to it. So don't blame the Mini. The Mini actually has a very good Wi-Fi connection, as I said in the video, better than any other Wi-Fi drone I've ever flown. So that was mostly my user error, or that's not standing in the right spot. Of course, the Mavic Air 2 with OcuSync 2, didn't matter where I stood, it had solid connection. And the Mini, the biggest con on the Mini since that update came out in, I'm going to say it was May, maybe the end of April, when it had that wind alert to come on constantly. And I only had the wind alert come off one time on this flight, and I was about 150 feet up. So that's not bad. It was almost, I think when I took off, my app said the wind was like 3 miles sustained with gusts of maybe 8 or whatever. So that's about as little as wind as you're ever going to get flying at the beach. So that's another thing. If you're going to get the Mini and you live in a windy environment, be wary, because you're going to have that wind alert going off. A lot on if you're in almost any type of wind at all. That's kind of a con, but otherwise, and then we got to the sunset part of the video. Again, I thought the Mini did well. Again, I didn't see many lens flare issues. The exposure was decent. It had some color in there, and I was fairly pleased with it. But then I took the Air 2 up, and the sun was dropping quickly. So by the time I got the Air 2 up, unfortunately, the sun had already dipped below the horizon. So I put it in HDR mode, which of course the Mini doesn't have. But when you put it in HDR mode, it does put everything in auto. You don't control any other settings aside the HDR switch. So it was kind of still full auto in a way. But anyhow, it did an incredible job of capturing those beautiful clouds in the sky and the right exposure, on the afterglow of the sunset. I couldn't believe it did that well in low light, to tell you the truth. I was stunned by how well that looked, and I don't know how it would have looked if I did not put it in HDR. And I was going to say, if I did have an HDR, I probably wouldn't have looked that good, because then I would have had to go and adjust a bunch of settings probably to get that look, and that would have taken away from the kind of the auto thing I was going for. So I'll have to test. I will maybe go back and test that sometime, how the difference between manual settings or auto settings, I should say, versus the HDR on the, we'll call it the afterglow hour, right minutes after the sun drops below the horizon. But then when I did shoot the drone, back towards Atlantic City, when you only had a little bit of afterglow on the left-hand side of the screen, you could see quite a bit of digital noise in there. It just wasn't enough light for that smaller sensor, and I would have expected the digital noise is nothing I didn't expect to see at that point, and it's probably something you could take a lot of that digital noise out if you put it right in Final Cut, and especially if you ran it in like desync light. And I don't know if the HDR feature on the Mavic Air 2 is compatible with desync light. I don't know if they work together. So on another video, I'm going to take that little piece of video and see if I can take some of that digital noise out in Final Cut. That'll be kind of a nice little follow-up project. But but the conclusions are, and I don't want to go on forever. The Air 2 did better in both in sunrise and sunset, which again you would expect. It has a bigger camera sensor. It's a more expensive drone. It has more camera settings in there, so that's no surprise. But again, you kind of get what you pay for, I guess you want to say. So the Mini is a great drone with a great camera, but it's just not in the same class with the Air 2. The Air 2 is closer to the Mavic 2 Pro series than it is, to the Mini, in my humble opinion. So that's my conclusions. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you got something out of it. If you have any questions about anything I did in the video, just let me know down below. Try to get back to you, and I appreciate everybody stopping by. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to my channel if you already are not subscribed. Hit the bell, for notifications on more drone video or camera related videos, coming up. I got a lot of stuff on the docket here. It's going to come out soon. So, it's the middle of summer now. I guess you could say, yeah, it's almost a month into summer now, and it's prime time to get out there and fly and make content. Especially when you live on the Jersey Shore. It's winter's long here, and harsh winters. So anyhow, I want to stop jabberjawing here, and we will see you on the next one.